Hi, I'm Jenny Rae, the Managing Director of Management Consulted, and I have the great privilege of interviewing the wondrous Lisa Bright today, one of our ex-McKinsey coaches. Lisa, we're going to walk through a market sizing case. I know that you love these.
Exactly.
I know that McKinsey doesn't use market sizing cases unless they're a component of a larger case.
Occasionally, there's some that they'll give in the Middle East. I've had some people get some market sizing cases in their interviews, but generally speaking, they stick with the more business situation type cases.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But what I want to just do today is, one of the things that we claim is that a McKinsey, Bain, and BCG consultant could always do a market sizing case. We're really testing that theory today. And so what I'm going to do is, the situation that I'm playing with here is kind of in a situation where I would be a partner in a McKinsey interview who either didn't have a lot of time or just wanted to kind of run through something super quickly so we could check off the we did a case box, but actually have more of a conversation. So I'm going to give you a pretty open-ended question. It's not going to have a lot of data behind it, and I just want to see what you do.
All
right. So show us what you got, girl.
Okay.
All right. So the market that we're going to size today is the market for disposable diapers in China.
Okay. All right. Is that it?
That is what I got for you. How about that?
All right. Okay. So we want to look at estimating the disposable diaper market in China.
Yeah.
Okay. So before I get started, I just have a couple quick questions. When we're looking at the size of the market, are we referring to sort of the currency value, like in US dollars or Chinese yen, or kind of the volume of disposable diapers?
Do you want to do it in Chinese yen?
Not as familiar with that one. U.S. dollars, I'm a little more familiar with, so we could do U.S. dollars.
Okay, let's do currency in U.S. dollars, just because if we were going to build off of this, what we would probably want would be the actual monetary value of the market, not just volumes.
Okay, great.
And let's focus on a 1 year period.
Okay, U.S. dollars. So 1 year disposable diaper market.
Yep.
And then I just wanted to clarify, when we talk about disposable diapers, there's different segments within the diaper market. So I'm thinking of non-disposable. So back in the day, I'm thinking cloth diapers and things like that in China. Would that be what we're describing? This is more your typical Huggies.
Exactly. So
product.
These are something that would go in a trash can, whereas the cloth diapers would be reusable.
Okay.
And basically, it would just be those two types of markets. As far as I know, there aren't really any other types.
Okay, great. So do you mind if I just take a moment to kind of structure out my thoughts in terms of how I would want to approach
Take
this?
your time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I think I have a general approach that I'd like to take to estimate this.
Great.
So basically we're looking at the disposable diaper market in US dollars in China. So what I would like to do is look at, I think, the average spend for one particular child in a year.
Okay.
And then we can roll that out.
On what in particular? When you say average spend, do you mean on?
On diapers.
Okay.
On disposable diapers. So if we have a baby who's in disposable diapers, how much would the typical baby cost per year, and how much would a family spend per child?
Gotcha. But just for disposable diapers.
Just for disposable.
Okay.
Exactly. And then once we can figure that out on a per child basis, we could roll that out to the market and really look at the number of babies in disposable diapers in China specifically.
Okay.
All right, so those are the two areas that I think I need to estimate. So to look at the average spend per baby per year, the one thing that I wanted to check is, can we kind of look at the typical baby, the average baby, or do we want to break this down and look at the different types? What would cause different diaper usage? So for example, a baby who's 6 months old and a child who's 4 years old, probably using a different amount of diapers.
Totally. It's really up to you how you want to approach it.
Okay.
So if you feel like it's appropriate to break it down further, you're more than welcome to.
Okay.
If you think it's okay to be to kind of pick the average, then I'm fine with that.
I'm going to try to do an average based on both that younger child and sort of building in the older child.
And what are you saying in general? Are you saying that in general that you would find that a younger child would use more diapers?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have a child who's 4 years old, they might not need a diaper every day.
Gotcha.
Maybe at night or something like that, versus a 6 month old, you're going to be needing a diaper on a regular basis.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to just look at the average child. So let's say one in the, maybe about the 2 year range.
Okay.
If that works. And so what I'd like to do is look at how many diapers that child would use in a year, and then how much it is on a per diaper basis.
Great.
Okay, so let's start with the price, because I think that one is kind of a quick estimate. So I need to figure out how much one diaper would cost if you were to purchase that. So I don't have any kids, so I'm going to take a guess here and say it's around, let's say around 20 cents.
Okay.
I would say.
Where are you basing that off of?
I'm just thinking, I have seen diaper packs at the store, and I think they usually come in packs of around 48 diapers or something like that. So let's say 48 diapers per pack. And I don't know, that pack might be around, I think that's around like is that about $5, I would say?
So,
48 diapers.
It's up to you, basically.
Okay.
Does that lead us to 20 cents also?
It's around 20 cents per diaper. So let's do that. Let's say 50 diapers. Let's do that. Let's say 50 diapers per pack at $5.
Okay. So is that still 20 cents?
I think that might be a
diaper?
little bit low. Let me estimate that and say about 10. Let's say $10 for 50 diapers.
Okay, and that gives us 20 cents.
That gives us about 20 cents. I think that from what I've seen, I haven't been purchasing diapers anytime recently, but I think that seems reasonable.
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right, so I'm going to use a figure of 20 cents per diaper, and then I need to look at the average number of diapers that a baby would use in a year.
Okay.
So let me break this down and say on a per day basis, and we can roll that out to 365 days. So per day, how many diapers would a child use? So like we said, maybe a 2-year-old. So let's say 24 hours in a day. Maybe every, let's say, 6 hours, they'd be using a different diaper.
Sure.
So that'd be 4
reasonable.
Diapers per day.
Okay.
So we have 4 diapers per day, and they're doing that for 365 days. I'm just going to round that to 350.
No weekends off, huh?
Yeah, no weekends off. But I'm just going to round that to 350 for ease of calculation. So that would be 700 times 2, so that'd be 1,400 diapers used in a year.
Okay.
All right.
The 700 times 2, just explain that calculation.
So 4 times the 350.
Yep.
So 2 times 350, 700 times 2 again,
Good.
so 1,400.
Thanks.
All right. So we've got 1,400 diapers used for the average child per year.
Okay.
And then it's 20 cents per diaper.
Yep.
All right. So if I take 1,400 divided by, let's say, 10 cents. So let's see here. Let me just make sure I want to make sure I didn't miss anything as I look at this. Okay. All right. So I need to take 1,400 diapers at 20 cents a piece. So dividing that, so 1,400 divided by 1 would be $1,400. Instead, we're looking at $140 divided by 2. So we're looking at $70 per year in diapers.
When you said it's divided by 1 or divided by 2, so if
so
it was 10 cents, how much would it be?
If it was 10 cents, it would be $140.
So isn't it going to be more than $140 if it's 20 cents?
So if we take $140 divided by 20 cents per diaper. Sorry. So it'd be $280 per year.
I think that makes more sense.
All right. So we have $280 for diapers per year per child. I'm just looking at that number to see if that kind of makes sense. So on a per week basis, so So dividing that by about 50, that would be about $4 a week. A little over 4. That seems a little bit low to me.
Let's see.
In diapers. So I wonder if one of those estimates is a little bit off. Maybe I need to adjust some of those. So I feel pretty comfortable about the 20 cents per diaper. The average per year. I guess there's, if you have this younger child, you'd be spending more per year.
Like you were saying, I think it might feel off because of thinking of all the different versions of it.
Exactly.
But I think that seems pretty reasonable.
I think that's okay.
Yep.
All right. So let's say $280 is what we would spend for a child in a given average child per year.
Okay.
All right. So now we need to figure out the number of babies in disposable diapers in China.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do, I think, is start with the overall population and then figure out how many children are in that age range that they would be using diapers in general, whether disposable, non-disposable, and then we could take out the amount that would be using disposable diapers. So population in China, I believe right now is about 1.2 billion people in China. And so we're looking at children in the 0 to... say maybe 4 on the high end. Okay. So we use 2 as an average, so I think that makes sense. So we want to look at children in the 0 to 4 range.
And are you counting that as 4 years or 5 years?
Yeah, I was just about to look at that. So I think I'm going to look at that as 5. Okay. Let's say 5 years. And we could say the average life expectancy, let's say in China, let's say it's about 80.
Okay.
Let's assume a normal distribution. So I want to figure out, this will help me figure out the number of children in that age range.
Okay.
All right, so I've got 1.2 billion people, and we need to take 5 out of 80 in terms of a percentage of the population. Okay, so 5 out of 80 would be the same as 1 over... So 40, let's see, trying to think. 5 goes into 80, we've got 5 times 10 would give us 50, and then 30 left would be 6, so that's 16.
Yep.
So we got 1/16 of the population is in this age range. So I need to take 1/16, which I know, so 1/8 is 12.5%. So 1/16 would be half of that. So it's okay. I'll say it's about 6% of the population in the 0 in that 5-year age span.
Yep.
So 5% of 1.2 billion. Well, 10% would be 120 million, and so 5% would be half of that, or there's 60 million. So 60 million children in the 0 to 5 range. Or 0 to 4, so it's
which
total
gives us
span
the
of 5
5,
years.
and that'd be 5%. So how do we get to the 6%?
Yes. So we can add on 1 more percent, which would be 12 million. So let's say that's 72. That is correct. So 72 million children.
Okay.
In this age range. Okay. So now if I look at, so now I need to figure out how many children are in diapers in total. Now, some of those children are going to be in disposable diapers and some are going to be in non-disposable.
Yep.
So we need to figure out how many would be in those 2 segments. So I think the major factor that would cause a child to be in disposable diapers versus not would maybe be income or kind of where they live. I'm thinking rural populations of China may not have access to grocery store where they can buy Huggies type diapers, so they'd be more in cloth diapers. So I think that where they live is also going to impact their income. So I think those are kind of similar.
Okay.
So I think maybe I'll do this based on where they live.
Okay.
So I want to split this into the percentage of the population that's in rural areas versus urban areas.
And we're basically saying rural areas, cloth diapers,
more cloth
urban, or are you saying they're all urban or all disposable, or?
I'd say a very high percentage, so maybe we can leave some leeway for that. So let's kind of break it down and say what percentage is in the rural versus urban, and then we could come up with a percentage of those that would be in disposable diapers versus not.
Great.
Okay, so in terms of rural, let me start another paper here. So in terms of, so we have 72 million children, and I want to break this down, the percentage in rural versus urban. So if I look at what percentage would be in the rural versus urban. I don't have a really good sense of the population between the two. I know they've got some really big cities in China. I'm going to say it might be around 50-50.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That would be my assumption. So let's say 50% are in rural areas and 50% in urban. So that would give us half of the 72, which would be 36. So 36 million in each category, rural versus urban. And then what I'd like to do here is break down for each of these the percentage that we think would be in cloth diapers versus disposable diapers. So of the 36 million, let's say rural first, I would say most would be in disposable diapers, I would think. Or sorry, in the opposite, non-disposable diapers and cloth diapers, because they don't have access to that. So let's say maybe 90% of the 36 million. Versus in the urban areas, I would say most would be in, maybe I do kind of 90% of each, actually. So 90% are in, I'm sorry, let me write this down as the percentage in disposable diapers for each. So of the 36 million, let's say 10% are in disposable diapers in the rural areas. And let's say, 90% in the urban areas. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think that seems reasonable. So to do this calculation, since we did a 50-50 split, I can kind of just do it off the 72 million in total. So let's do 10% of the 72 million children are in disposable, let's see, 10% and 90%. Let me just see here. I want to make sure that the math is coming out right on this one.
Yep.
So of the 72 million, we've got 50-50 split. I'll do this off the 36 million. Okay. So 10% of the 36 million would be 3.6 million. 90% of the 36 million would just be this 36 minus the 3.6, which would give us 22.4. So adding those up, we get 26 million. So we have 26 million children in disposable diapers.
Just check that number quickly. Mm.
Okay. So I've got 10% of the 36, which is 3.6. And then 90%, which is just 36 minus the 3.6. So, I missed, instead of a 20, it's a 30. There we go, 32.4. All right, sorry about that. So we get 35, so it's 36. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, so we have 36 million children in disposable diapers. Now, coming back to my initial structure here, we have the number of children in disposable diapers at 36 million. And we've got the average spend per child of $280 per year.
That sounds like fun math.
All right. So if you don't mind, I'll round this to $300 per child per year.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so if we have $300 per child per year, and we have 36 million children, so 36 million times 10, let's say times 100, that would give me 36 million, that would be 3.6 billion, that would be times 100, and then times 3 would be 9 plus 1.8, so that would give me $10.8 billion as the disposable diaper market in China. Now, one other thing as I was going through this, I noticed, I should have asked this up front. When we talk about disposable diapers, there could be potentially other markets besides babies. I think that would be the primary market that most people would think of, but there's also elderly people or people in medical situations that would require that. So that's something that we could add on to this, but I think this would be a majority of the market. So depending on what type of disposable diapers we're looking at, either adults or just for children. But this should be the majority of the market at $10.8 billion US as the disposable diaper market in China.
Tell me what that means to you. What does 10.8 billion mean? Is that big? Is that small?
I think I'd like to get a better sense of is this a category within medical care products, or what exactly who is our client? What kind of products do they sell, what their revenues are, so we can kind of put this in some context. I mean, it's a pretty sizable market. Obviously, there's a lot of children in China. I think it might actually be higher just because I think if we looked at a normal distribution, I think it would be a little bit higher than that. And I want to understand maybe if that 20 cents might be different in China versus here. From what I've heard, though, a lot of the prices are kind of similar, so I think it's representative of that. But to determine if this is a sizable market, I think we need to get some more data on our client and the different markets that they might be getting into, and kind of do the comparison.
That's awesome. You can totally relax, Lisa.
Let's
just talk about the case.
Cool.
Okay, so what did you like about your approach? What do you wish you would have done differently as you were going through it?
I should have asked some of the clarifying questions up front in terms of the market, what's included. My immediate thought was kind of going to the baby market.
Oh, I thought you did a great job though of bringing that back in at the end. That was great insight. And so yeah, I mean, maybe I would have been super concerned at the beginning that you were going to miss that whole thing, but you didn't miss it overall, so that was huge.
So I think that's something I could have done up front. I think I had a pretty clear structure in terms of math.
And it held up, right? It held up the whole way through the case. You didn't have to deviate from it or cross off big sections. Maybe just the following through the one side of it to the rural and urban a little bit further.
Yeah, I needed a little bit more space with my Sharpie here.
Exactly.
So, I think that held up well. So the overall structure I liked on this one. Some of the math got a little bit different. So
how would you have made that less hairy if you, just looking back in retrospect?
I could have kind of estimated the population around 1 billion or so
instead of the 1.2. Yeah, that would have made it easier.
No, but I think I rounded in a few places where I could that kind of cleaned up the math a little.
The one that I was thinking was the 48 diapers.
Yes.
When you picked 48, I was like, no.
No.
Why not 50
well, I was thinking
or
they're usually
60
in packs
exactly.
of, like, dozens.
You were being super authentic there, which is totally fine. But I think in that case, you could have probably started with 50, and that would have made that number a lot easier.
Exactly.
And
it was different because I've never purchased diapers before.
Totally.
I don't babysit that much. I don't have any kids in my family that are younger.
Yeah.
So in this case, trying to figure out, okay, how much does a diaper cost?
Exactly.
It's a little bit different.
But I think you had great rationale. I mean, I can talk through just my overall feedback. Overall, I thought it was great. I would have had a really good sense of what was going on. There are ways that I would have maybe tweaked it, so I just wanted to talk about that. But you at the beginning asked fantastic clarifying questions. From the beginning, I had the confidence that you were going to be able to do this. And that carried the whole way through your structure. I felt like your structure was really clearly broken down, very, very linear in the way that you thought about it. And so you did a great job just in general building trust at the beginning. How are we valuing the market, disposable versus cloth, really identifying what was inside the market there. And the best thing that I thought you did there was lay out your own assumptions. I was teasing you about the Chinese yuan because I was like, is she offering to do it in yuan? Because some partners, you know them, right? They would have been like, sure, let's do it in yuan, right? And then you would know the conversion. Oh, crap. And so obviously, my only recommendation there would just be don't offer something that you're not willing to do. So when you're clarifying, try to clarify in the direction that you want to go. But other than that, I just thought your opening of the case was absolutely fantastic. In your structure, I thought it was incredibly clear. In your assumptions, I felt like you were so authentic, but you could have made it easier on yourself. That was my main point of feedback there. And then there were the two times that math, I could tell the wheels were turning. And the one was the 1,400 a year and the 0.2. Because if you're dividing it, then that would totally make sense. But you're actually multiplying.
Yeah, I'm multiplying that and not divide. I don't know why I did that.
And so when you were doing it, you were I think it's because you're thinking you're dividing it by the 20 cents because it's not $1.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that piece and obviously we caught that. I could tell that you weren't sure about the number, which is why I jumped in. Obviously, some partners wouldn't be quite as nice, but
exactly.
But that was really helpful to get there. And then on this one, this is really funny. I mean, basically, when you're picking 90 and 10 and 90 and 10, you can just pick 100. Each one of them give you the 50%.
Exactly.
And so when you kind of went through that, I was like, I knew that you knew that there was a shortcut. It was
but I was like, I don't want to make pick the wrong assumption. I want to make sure that the number is right.
Exactly. And then hilariously you like calculated the number, but you were
then I did the
it seems like it's right. And it was kind of like in the ballpark, but anyhow, so that, I think that was ultimately the way that you picked the numbers there, you didn't even have to do that whole piece.
Mm-hmm.
You could have just said, I'm going to estimate that 50% of people are in cloth and 50% of people are in it.
Yeah.
So that whole piece did feel like a little bit of like a circuitous route to get to that point. And that would be like one of my key points of feedback just at the end in terms of insights would be, that percentage is going to have a huge impact on this overall market, right? You know, if it's 60% of the overall market that's in disposable diapers, that gives you a huge bump on your revenues, a multi-billion-dollar bump actually. So, so when, depending on who our client is, probably someone like a, brand manager of a Huggies or something like that, that would be insights that they would probably be really interested in.
And that's something we could maybe research in terms of, we can go pull some data on that, but
My confidence in your ability to be a consultant, to go find the data, to rationalize the data, to break it down into the structure, totally there. So how did it feel to be back in the hot seat?
A little different.
Well, thanks so much for running through that case.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.